Hi everyone. In the early 70s, a term emerged from the complex world of linguistic theory that would one day shape the entire framework for data analysis today. That word is knowledge graph. It was coined by the innovative mind of Edgar Schneider, an Austrian linguist. This concept was planted as a seed of brilliance that would grow to transform how we engage with data's intricate webs. As years progressed into the late 80s, the seed of the concept began to bear its first fruit in the Netherlands, where the University of Groningen and the University of Twente set out on a journey to explore the untapped potential of semantic networks in parsing scientific knowledge. Their exploratory work would soon reveal just the tip of the iceberg, reflecting the myriad of connections beneath the surface of scientific data. The arrival of new millennium brought a watershed moment with the launch of the Gene Ontology project in 2005. Think of it as the Rosetta Stone for geneticists, providing a uniform language to articulate gene and protein role across species, a giant leap forward to the practical application of knowledge graphs in the life science industry. Fast forward to 2009, and the field of knowledge sharing was forever altered with the birth of Wikidata, like a digital Alexandria library. It emerged as a repository for the world's accumulated wisdom, empowering domain-specific knowledge graphs and enriching the landscape of research. IBM did not just imagine, but realize the potential power of knowledge graphs. In 2014, with the Watson Health, it unveiled a world where data's behemoth volumes could be sifted through for medical insights, a testament to knowledge graphs' analytical prowess. A mere 3 years later, knowledge graphs burst into the mainstream. Google shared its treasure trove through the Knowledge Graph API, handing the keys to a kingdom of interconnected information to developers everywhere in the world for innovations across the field, like life science and beyond. In 2020, under the shadow of a pandemic, the world was united by a collective endeavor for knowledge. Knowledge graphs emerged as champions in the global crusade against COVID-19 virus, a demonstration of how crucial collaboration and rapid data integration could be used in facing a health crisis. Fast tracking to the present day, the applications of knowledge graphs in life science have achieved a level of precision that seemed impossible a mere decade ago, fueling progress in drug discovery, target identification, and even personalized medicine. With today's episode, we are poised to uncover how these developments are reshaping life science industry. To guide us into this brave new world, we have the privilege of speaking with a true pioneer at the intersection of life sciences and data technology, Berenice Wulbrecht, Vice President of Solutions Enablement at ontologies. Her career and journey is as diverse as it's impactful, with over a decade of hands-on experience in the field. Berenice got her start in 2007 as a bioinformatics engineer at the prestigious Institut Pasteur de Lille, a role which no doubt laid a solid foundation for her future endeavors. And by bridging the gap between biology and informatics, from there, she moved on to an impressive tenure at BASF Plant Science, where for nearly a decade, her focus was the development of laboratory information management systems and systems biology. Her expertise in multi-omics analysis and in silico gene discovery contributed significantly to advancement in crop improvement. Since 2017, Berenice has been a leading force at ontologies, where she serves as the Vice President of Data Science and Solution Enablement. Her role is truly multi-layered. She's a scientific lead overseeing the integration of over 100 public data sets available, provides a professional services around the Discover platform, at OntoForce and orchestrates data integration projects that span every phase of the drug development lifecycle, from target identification all the way to competitive intelligence. Beyond her professional achievements, Berenice's insights are valued on a global scale. She is part of the industry advisory board of Elixir, the European Bioinformatics Network, where her contributions are shaping the way we approach bioinformatics across Europe and beyond. Berenice, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you, Adwen, for the invitation. Really
No
happy to have you today, to be with you
problem.
today.
Glad to have you here. Berenice, we're going to start by telling our audience what is it that you do at OntoForce on a daily basis. So, how does your day-to-day job look like?
At OntoForce, I'm taking care of the solution enablement teams, and basically the team of data engineer, data scientist, which is working daily with our customer collaboratively to implement the Discover platform, that is the software that OntoForce distributing, with customer applying the platform to their data, to their use case, to their journey.
Excellent, excellent. So, and how did you find the transition? Because you and me, we've been in the same masterclass in France. I remember, and we were really invested in bioinformatics. So, how did you find the transition toward what you're doing today? Was it a natural flow of things, or did you have to let's say learn new things and gain a new experience in the meantime?
Then definitively 20 years of career, it's also like just a learning journey. And even today, I'm still learning every day new things. But then after the master in bioinformatics, I first work for a French institution, Pasteur Institute of Lille, and in a transcriptomic lab. And then I transitioned to industry after working with for BASF Plant Science, which is what was a chemistry company, but I was working in the plant biotech branch of the company. And then basically it was applying bioinformatics, but also coding the LIMS, the Laboratory Information Management System, for the company, in order to support the lab flow.
Fantastic.
And with my background in bioinformatics, I move on to more system biology and data integration. It was gene discovery pipeline, right? And you have to choose the right genes into the plant in order to get your phenotype of interest, bigger yield, have a drug resistance, etc. And then finding the right genes, you need to consider all the evidence for that, right? And it means that you need to collect information about the gene annotation, about the transcriptomic profile, etc., in order to maximize the chance to choose the right genes for the gene discovery pipeline.
Nice.
And basically, it's what I done with BASF. And naturally, I move after to OntoForce, which is a software which is dedicated to the data integration space.
Nice, very nice. So it's all a natural flow of evolution of your.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I've been in a discussion with one of my colleagues, clients, so a good friend of a long time, a couple of days ago, about the show today, and I was talking about what we're gonna be talking about, knowledge graphs, ontologies, and so on, and he's always fascinated with this, but he couldn't really get a sense of how this is being applied. So what I'm hoping today in this episode is we're going to talk about all these kind of things, but while preparing for the show, I noticed that people cannot uh, s- stop themselves from being too technical. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to talk on a high level about these concepts, and if the time is okay, we can go deeper in the topic. So to lay the groundwork of our discussion today, can we start defining, yeah, the foundation of the discussion today? So we're going to define some terminology for people who don't know about these things. So can you explain to the people listening today what knowledge graphs are, and how are they different from the traditional databases that we use today?
Sure. then you need to think about like data as a network of information. And in fact, a network, practically every one of us is using internet, the World Wide Web, every day. And it's you link from one page to another. Then basically you can navigate and have this exploration. Imagine that you can do that from a data perspective. Then each data point, like a gene, a drug, a clinical study, become an object in this graph, and they have relationship. Then, for example, a clinical study having tested a drug for a specific indication, a specific disease, and you organize all your data like that as a network, and then you can start to navigate like you do a little bit when you navigate on internet, but here we are on data concept. You can navigate in order to explore the space. That have two advantages. That first thing, like internet, you can expand new page very easily. Then that means that the knowledge graph can expand in terms of type of concept of data point into this graph, but also in terms of relationship that exists between the different concepts.
I see. I see. Yeah. And so how is that how does this work with ontology? So did ontology impact knowledge graphs, or is it actually the opposite, or how does it work?
Alors, I know that they are tightly linked. Nevertheless, in theory, you can start a knowledge graph without having a dedicated ontology. Then ontology, it will be, most of the time, it's really like space specific. For example, you have ontology to describe what is a person, what is a data set, what is around a drug or a medical concept, etc. Then it will define about what are the different, it is defining which are the different objects that are recognized into this space, but also the relationship, the possible relationship that exists. Then it means that from the start, you try to explain a little bit like what would be like the data model around specific concept, and it will work through the whole. Now, with the knowledge graph, you can take the decision to say, okay, I want to have a very constrained data model, and I will first make an ontology in order to define the exact borders, the relationships, etc. Or you can say, okay, I'm a little bit more flexible regarding the construction of the knowledge graph, and you don't necessarily need to have the ontology. But more you have ontology, more it will streamline, and of course, the maintenance of the knowledge graph will be facilitated. But
Nice.
it's not a pre-required.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And now, so usually to do that, organizations who try to implement these technologies, they need to have a sort of um, a certain level of maturity in terms of data foundation within their organizations to know exactly how to categorize the entire data set that they have, and it's not always easy. So how do you, working with organizations, mostly pharma, because I've been experiencing this as well during my career where I worked for a pharma company. I saw the importance of this data organization, data foundation, before we attack the implementation of technologies like knowledge graph.
Yeah.
So how do you find the people you work with? How do you find their level of preparedness? Is there any work that you had to do in order to say, okay, now you're ready to integrate knowledge graphs, or hold on a second, there's so many things that we think we need to fix first in order for us to work together? So is there any level of checks and balances to see whether or not organization is ready to implement such technologies?
Alors, with Ontoforce, we take the party that we want to go quick to value. And it's also why we also have a professional services team around the platform, is that we don't necessarily need to start to have a complete mature data framework to start the journey on the knowledge graph. Then it means that as long as you are able to keep stable format, for example, even stable CSV file, you know that at least your column doesn't change every other day, then basically you can already start the journeys. And for example, there is a data ingestion engine that allows to turn your data into a knowledge graph, and also applying all the layer for semantics. You probably already heard about FAIR. That is also like helping to apply the FAIR principle to the data in order to make the data more mature and ready to enter the knowledge graph. And if companies have very mature framework, of course, it's easier to go to the knowledge graph.
Yeah.
But if not, is not a blocker neither.
Okay. So is it safe to say, or is it correct to say that we can onboard these technologies at any level of maturity of data within an organization? But
Absolutely.
then when we add this layer of technology within an organization, it might help actually all the data teams to get their data sorted out and discover new things that they probably didn't know before.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah, so in terms of implementing these technologies, now we hear about a lot of things on the media about AI, and all the Gen AI work that is being done and all the algorithms that are being created. There's an entire new flow of requirements that are sort of imposed to organizations to align in order to get most of the data that they have within their organization. Um, we probably will see in the next coming years a lot of organizations getting ready to invest in AI without necessarily having a good data foundation, which is extremely risky and dangerous to do in that sense. So, uh, do you think that people will, within healthcare organizations in particular, they will rush towards investment in AI versus trying to fix their data foundation first? Is that something that's gonna be important to leverage technologies like knowledge graph ontologies and try to understand first what we have before we jump into the Gen AI sort of trend? So how do you see organizations from investment perspective doing? Do you think that's going to be that there would be a rush towards Gen AI versus doing the most important thing first?
Yeah, I do think it's a risk, and it's also a risk of disillusion around this Gen AI setup. Then it's you probably already see the cartoon, like we want good data, like everyone is, yeah, me, and we want to clean the data like nobody, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But Gen AI, machine learning, all the advanced analytic, you need to have a data which is pretty in good shape in order to maximize the output that you can have to such technology.
Mhm.
And we see that it's still difficult, to gain the project into like making this data foundation very clean and fitting for the next technology, because it requires quite some investment. But it is very important to have this foundation in order to guarantee. An example would be AlphaFold. If there will be no UniProt, if there
Mhm.
will be like no one that would have made very good, clean, qualitative protein data set, AlphaFold will not be there and leverage the success on the 3D structure for that.
Mhm.
And it's true for everywhere. Then we heavily need to invest into this data foundation to guarantee the success about this next technology.
Right. So clean your data first, and then try to play with AI, let's say.
Yes, don't clean everything because it will be like too much time and too much resource. But it's also like being able to identify what is important
Mhm.
to clean, to validate in order to start on this journey with Gen AI.
Yeah, yeah. So I was working with a client before Gen AI, so before the creation of all the GPT and then Gemini, all of these technologies. So I was working with a stakeholder who was not technical in the sense that they didn't really understand the behind the scene of data. So when you go through all the data cleaning, ingestion, data quality, all these kind of things, so all they wanted is to extract valuable information from their data. So in one of the meetings that I had with them, they were asking about, so one of the things was data cleaning in the backend, and but then also creation of user interfaces to interact with the data. So interaction meaning uh, not the way we interact as a human with a database, but interaction in the sense that structured queries and things like that. So behind the scene, there's a lot of work being done from tech perspective on creating concepts, your relationship between data, and trying to come up with whether you're going to be doing a query against the database. You're going to come a lot of results will show up
Mm-hmm.
that has nothing to do with the terms that you used for the query itself, but there's a lot of relationship happening behind the scene.
Yeah.
So one of the discussions I had with them is like, at the time when I thought it was really too far fetched, was like, I want to write in a text box a human language query. For example, how many patients I have that are under age of 18 or between 18 and 24. So they wanted really to write the query like this. And so before Gen AI, that was something that, it's like, yeah, it's kind of science fiction. It's not really, these people don't understand how things are happening behind the scene. But now with um, knowledge graphs, with semantics, with Gen AI, you can come up with a sort of applications that integrate this sort of technology, but also there's the queries is transformed into more of a semantics behind the scene, and doing things like that. Did you already start working on such projects where they integrate both of these sides of technologies, or
We,
how do you see
yeah,
it going in the future?
we do. And before I reply to exactly your this question, because you say like, okay, I can make a query to fetch the data.
Yes.
Why is it important to have the data integrated, and knowledge graph are really good and are really good at that. Imagine that you search information for a certain chemical, right?
Mhm.
Then part of your data might have referred this chemical with an internal name. Part of your data might have referred about the compound as a chemical name.
Yeah.
Some might have mentioned it as a brand name, etc. If you have not made the effort to say that this is about the same concept, that is about the same object in my knowledge graph, then basically when you will query your system, you will always get partially information.
Mhm.
Then why this data harmonization is important, it's exactly for that.
Mhm.
Now moving to reply to your question. Yes, we already started, and of course, knowledge graph and Gen AI, LLM, at the end of the day, each technology has its asset, and for me, it's a complementarity. Then
Mhm.
it's not that I don't see Gen AI or LLM like phasing out knowledge graph, not at all. It will be creating new opportunity by combining these different technology. Then the interaction between knowledge graph and LLM or Gen AI, because it's all about different technology.
Right.
Um, then we started, for example, to indeed like how to support querying the knowledge graph, because as you mentioned, then LLM are really good into this natural language
Yeah.
processing. Then how could you, from a query perspective, connect to the knowledge graph and extract the right level of information?
Yeah.
Send that into like supporting querying in order to retrieve the right information. Once you get some information, it could be using again Gen AI to be able to summarize a set of results, because you
Mhm.
might, for example, retrieve like 1,000 results, and you want to have a summary about this information.
Right.
That is more from the querying perspective. After, you can think that Also, for example, machine learning, LLM could be used in order to create information that will be fit into the knowledge graph and complement the knowledge graph with a specific set of information analyses that have been extracted with such technology.
Yeah.
There is a lot of interaction point.
Yeah. That's fascinating. So one of the things that when I hear you talking about all these kind of things, I cannot stop um, thinking about what we call. So this is something that is coming up lately, like all the retrieval augmented generation, the RAG. So basically, what that is people usually they bring the power of LLM into creating queries from natural language, and then all these queries will be translated behind the scene into more of a structured queries. They go to databases to grab the information. What I can say, we've been playing with these kind of things before, and what we notice, and not us, but a lot of people in the field, that this is not mature yet, in the sense that um, LLM will translate something, the wrong query, even though your prompt is very accurate, or your question is very accurate. So that requires a level of understanding first of what you are asking for the system, right? So you might ask about retrieving relationship between genes and within databases and things like that, but you don't go deep into the description. So the LLM is going to translate that to the best it can into a query that is not really correct, in the sense that the data that's going to be retrieved is not really accurate. So that might be problematic, in the sense that we're not going to have really answers that we are expecting. It can be a false, in the sense that if you're going to use this information for research publication or things like that, it gets more dangerous when you try to retrieve aggregated information, or give me number of things that are under this threshold, and then the query will be written behind the scene, but we don't see that. The LLM is going to translate that in the query, and then it's going to retrieve information, but the information is not going to be correct.
Yeah.
So how can we put some safeguards into that sort of danger of the level of maturity of the technology of LLM is not quite there yet, and that requires. So that's another side question that requires new expertise in the way that we express exactly what we need from the system. So how can we put some safeguards between the layers of LLM integrated to our databases, and would knowledge graph or the ontologies that we set in as a foundation, like we talked before in the beginning of this episode, can this be leveraged as a way to sort of uh, create that sort of safeguards of wrong queries going to the system? Um, I don't know. My question is too long. Do you see what I mean?
Well, yes, and indeed you have the knowledge graph is like giving basically can be like a framework for LLM to not go wide, right? But there is some kind of relationship that exists, and that could be that guideline for the LLM, and validating that what is proposed as a result by LLM, is it something that the knowledge graph can eventually constrain with a certain set of flexibility. And you are right that at this stage, this kind of technology, I mean, you still have hallucination, etc., and is not. It's something that is still maturing a lot. But positioning it as an assistant, especially when we are talking about science research, where there is also a field about having novelty, right? About having discovery.
Right.
Then it's not taking the discovery as is from Gen AI, from machine learning or whatever, but being able to confront that into a frame where, okay, is it really possible? And I do believe that, especially in the field of life science, in the field of research, of clinical development, this technology will be positioned as an assistant for the researcher, as a proposing new idea, new solution that after the researcher will validate. And I don't think that it will be something for which we will take the the response by the system has a granted, validated setup, and go and invest million, or go for testing on patients behind, right? And it's really like an assistant to the researcher that I think we are going through.
I think this is very important, especially for organizations who are in the middle of integrating these technologies to insist where during the onboarding of these technologies, to insist to all the number of stakeholders that human validation is extremely important, especially in our field. It can be, it varies in terms of importance depending on the field, I'm sure, but in life science, it's like you mentioned, it's extremely dangerous to not validate by humans. So human validation is still there, even though the level of technology is very advanced.
Yeah. And
And
this system will assist to go further, to go deeper into the prediction, for example, going into precision medicine, being able to look for patient stratification much more deeper than before, right? And definitively it's a huge potential, but
yeah,
still positioned as an assistant.
yeah, yeah. And so with that, would the knowledge graph, so now I'm going to talk about something else, is where we request these new technologies to extract information, um, and that might be dangerous in terms of data governance, or data access to these systems. Are there any sort of governance layers that we can build on top, or embed within the knowledge graph, in order to restrict access to certain people within the entire data set that we have, especially that some of the organization will probably will not resist the temptation to use public APIs for integrating public LLM, like some companies, they make that so completely easy to do. Can we leverage knowledge graph to add layers of security in terms of access to the information?
Alors, yes, in Knowledge Graph, you can have this restriction for data access. Now, what we see, indeed, if it's about LLM, then basically what the field is going into, like integrating locally a copy of an LLM. Then pharma are integrating a copy of different model internally, and it's this model that will be queried, and not an external model. And I think it's indeed especially depending on for which purpose you want to use this LLM, there is perhaps some topics that are a little bit less sensitive. But when you are talking about being able to look deeply on patient, on real world evidence data, etc., then it requires indeed a level of security that needs to be considered.
Nice. Thank you, Berenice. It was really, really nice to have you with us today. We learned a lot about all these concepts, thanks to you. And to the people listening to us today, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on my node in the connection on LinkedIn.
Nice, nice. Berenice, thank you so much for for being with us, and you're welcome to come back anytime in the show.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Han.
Berenice. Bye.
Bye.